Hello and welcome back to the second installment of skedline.com's coverage of the 2019 March Madness Tournament. Of course, I'm Aaron Ranson here with analysts Brandon Tretter and Mike Ranger, and we're here to queue up the Sweet 16. It's a bit of a different tournament this year, as since the first time since 2009 and only the second time in tournament history. No 1 seeds, 2 seeds, or 3 seeds have been eliminated up till now. Mike, why don't you start us off and...
Yeah, well, you speak of the 2s and 3s. I have a couple really good matchups of 2s and 3s that I want to talk about. You know, it's a little bit disappointing that we haven't had a lot of the big upsets. Usually that's the most exciting part of the tournament. But I think the fact that a lot of these powerhouse schools are getting through means we're going to have a lot of really exciting matchups in the Sweet 16. I want to go to the Midwest bracket first, and I want to talk about the number 3 Houston Cougars against the number 2 Kentucky Wildcats. First time since 1984 that Houston's been in the Sweet 16, and they haven't faced much adversity in the tournament so far. They beat Georgia State in the first round by 30 points, and they had a pretty healthy lead over Ohio State through much of the game in the second round. They're led by senior Corey Davis Jr. He had 20 points, over 20 points in both games so far in the tournament. Houston has a top 10 defense, and they have the best opponent field goal percentage in the nation, and they're going to need that defense as they go up against a powerhouse Kentucky squad. A bit of a different feel for Kentucky this year. We're used to seeing Kentucky with a lot of one-and-done guys. They have 2 guys in their starting lineup who aren't freshmen this year. They have the redshirt senior Reed Travis, and they have sophomore P.J. Washington, who hasn't played yet in this tournament. Kentucky didn't miss him at all against Abilene Christian. They won that game handily, but they got a bit of a scare against Wofford in the second round. The expectation is that P.J. Washington will be back and he will be ready to go against Houston. So watch out for him as he plays in his first tournament game.
It's good to hear.
Staying in the Midwest region, the number 1 North Carolina Tar Heels against the number 5 Auburn. It's weird, you know, there's not a lot of low seeds left. We have one 12 seed, so Auburn is the next lowest seed. So in a way, they're kind of a Cinderella story. But they don't really feel like it. They've won 10 games in a row. They won the SEC tournament. This team loves shooting the 3. They shoot 39% from the 3. Second most attempts in the nation this year, and they shot 25 of 61 through the first 2 games of this tournament. They also forced lots of turnovers. North Carolina had a little bit of trouble in the first half of their first 2 games against Iona and Washington. Roy Williams made some adjustments, and they wiped the floor with both those teams in the second half. If they can do a good job limiting the turnovers and defending the 3, they should get through the Auburn Tigers on Friday night. Moving over to the West bracket, game that tips off tonight at 9:30 in Anaheim. In my opinion, this is the best matchup of the Sweet 16. I think it's going to be the closest game. It's a defensive matchup. You've got lottery pick Jarrett Culver for Texas Tech. He put up 29 in the first round against Northern Kentucky. If he goes off again, he was quieter in their second round game, but if he goes off again, I think Michigan will be in tough. The Buffalo Bulls were a team that, Aaron, I know you like them to go pretty deep, and not just you, a lot of people. They were a very offensive team. Eric Thomas, we talked to him last week, he had them going deep. They were close in the first half, but then Texas Tech just smothered them with their defense. Buffalo had no answer. The Red Raiders opened up a 30-point lead in the second half of that game. Michigan is going to have to limit turnovers. They led the nation in fewest turnovers this year. If they win the turnover battle, I like their chances. Some Canadian content in this one as well. Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Ignas Brazdeikis, was pretty ineffective against Florida in the second round. He only had 5 points, shot 25%. But he led the Wolverines with 15 points per game in the season and shot 40% from 3. So look out for him. Like I said, really excited for this matchup. You got the 3rd best defense in the league going up against the 2nd best defense in the nation. And the number 1 defense is the team that I picked to win the tournament, the Virginia Cavaliers. They are going to have their hands full with the only real true Cinderella story left in the tournament. Brandon, you're going to talk about that.
So yeah, you talk about Cinderella teams, you talk about good defense. We've got both of those in this matchup here. We've got Oregon taking on Virginia. As you said, Oregon's the only Cinderella team left. We're not counting Auburn. They're a 5 seed. Doesn't count. Oregon beat UC Irvine heading into this game. Luckily for them, they had built up a big first half lead because they didn't score their first point of the second half until about 8 minutes into the second half. They rallied around the play of Ihab Amin. He was really scrappy out there. He had 3 steals. He was taking charges, forcing turnovers. They kind of just exemplified the way he was playing, and they kind of built their whole game plan around that. We talked about how they lost Bol earlier in the year. He's going to be a lottery pick, possibly their best player. I drew some comparisons to the team of a few years ago with Chris Boucher, Raptor Chris Boucher.
Raptor legend.
And how that team was able to get to the Final Four. This team isn't as good, but I still, look, they've accomplished a lot getting this far. I don't know if I like their chances against Virginia. But they take on the 1 seed Cavaliers and the number 1 ranked defense in the country. Virginia beat Oklahoma in the second round. They won 63-51. Mamadi Diakite was a beast in this game, dropping 14 points, 9 boards, and he also had 3 blocks in this game. They're going to need DeAndre Hunter to play a bigger role for them. He's a projected lottery pick. He only had 10 points against Oklahoma. If they're going to have the success that they want to have, he's going to need to play a bigger role for them. Tip-off for that game is 9:57 in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a weird tip-off time, but that's when it is. Moving on to perhaps the highlight of the tournament so far, we've got Duke UCF. Taco Fall made headlines coming into this game when he told NCAA.com that he wasn't going to let Zion Williamson dunk on him. He said, quote, "I won't allow it. I won't allow him to put me on one of his highlight tapes." Now, the irony in this is that Zion Williams did not dunk on Taco, but Taco's probably going to end up on his highlight tapes.
Probably.
In the dying seconds of the game, Zion drove on Taco. He converted the layup and drew a foul. Taco fouled out on the play. Zion would go to the line. He would miss the free throw, but RJ Barrett would grab the rebound, get the putback, put Duke up 1 in the dying seconds. UCF would go down the other way. They would come heartbreakingly close, missing 2 shots at the rim, and the final buzzer would sound. Duke held on to win 77-76, and now they have a Sweet 16 date with Virginia Tech. After the game, obviously emotions were running high for UCF. We have this video from their Twitter account at UCFMBB on Twitter. Head coach Johnny Dawkins speaking to his team after the game.
I'm really proud of what you did this year, not just tonight. You did this year representing our program, representing our university. Couldn't be more proud of how you handled yourself on and off the court. And you guys have been terrific. And look, man, we always said it's going to end 2 ways when you invest like we invest. You're going to end, man, celebrating, we're going to end crying. We're going to end in tears. We end in tears. That's because we invested, as I said before, so much in each other and so much in what we were doing. And again, man, I told you guys before, I love you guys. It's been amazing coaching this group. And like I said, for us, we got a lot of good memories, man. A lot of good memories. We've accomplished a lot of amazing things this year. And I know that doesn't, do anything for us right now. But at some point in time, it will. And so again, I know this is going to hurt. It's going to hurt for a while. I've been in it before and the same thing. But we're proud of you guys. We're proud of the effort and the energy that you gave us all year long. Chad, what are we going to say, man?
Hey, family on 3, family on 3. 1, 2, 3, family! I love you too, coach.
I'm proud of you. I know. Right now, this is already I'm proud of you, man. Proud of you. It's hard. It's hard, but we played off, gave it our best shot. You know what I'm saying? It's all we can do. All we can do.
Yeah, so that's an emotional video. That's just kind of what the tournament's all about. Again, that video comes to us from the UCF men's basketball Twitter account at UCF_MBB. So UCF's going home, Duke's going on to the Sweet 16, and they're going to be taking on Virginia Tech. For the first time in this tournament as a 4-seed, Virginia Tech is an underdog. They beat 13-seed St. Louis and 12-seed Liberty going on in the first 2 rounds. It'll be a showdown of highly touted Canadians as Duke's RJ Barrett takes on Nickeil Alexander-Walker from Virginia Tech. Alexander Walker is going to look to repeat his first-round performance when he led the Hokies in scoring in 20 points. Barrett, of course, is coming off that huge game-winning bucket against UCF, and this game is going to get underway at 9:39 in Washington, D.C. So we all know I have Duke winning the tournament.
Yeah, your hot take of the century.
I know. I just go with the winners, as it did almost 40% of people in brackets on NCAA.com that all have Duke winning. We spoke to J.D. Bunkus of Sportsnet last week, who also had Duke winning when he was speaking to us. So we have him on the line now. JD, are you still confident in your Duke pick?
I'm a little shook about Duke. I got to be honest. I think those are like the best team in the tournament so far, and I think that game against Central Florida kind of showed that they really struggled to shoot the basketball. And you can basically say, Zion, beat us one-on-one, get to the basket, try and score, but we're going to double you. And if you try to kick it around and move it around, you better hope that some of these guys can knock down shots, because there don't seem to be too many players past Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett who can knock those down, and they just don't have a big man who can really make deep shots. And when I look at a lot of these other teams so far in the tournament, like Tennessee has really been impressive, and Gonzaga, who beat Duke in the regular season, is super impressive. I'm not sure Duke has the horses to go deep. They have the star power. I think Zion can take them as far as they want in any game. RJ Barrett can take over games, Cam Reddish as well, but those contests where it's going to come down to free throw shooting, or they're going to need the deep ball to come back in some games or provide secondary offense, I'm not sure it's going to be enough to beat some of these better teams, to be honest.
What would you say has been the highlight of the tournament so far for you, JD?
The Duke UCF game was easily the moment of the tournament so far, just because you had everything happen all at once right at the end of the game. You get Taco Fall fouling out on an and one by Zion Williamson. Then the kid goes to the free throw line, misses it, and the Canadian RJ Barrett scoops up the ball and puts one back to kind of save his ass. The only thing is now you have UCF fans who are furious because they feel like it's an offensive foul call, but hey, that gets missed on Barrett. They go the other way. They still have last possession. They get an unbelievable look. And I don't know how that ball didn't go down. If you remember the Raptors playoffs last year against Cleveland, that first game where Toronto could have saved themselves from going to overtime when they got the couple opportunities, and there just seemed to be that force field over the rim. Jonas Valanciunas couldn't tip one in. I felt the same way for UCF. Like, almost as though the basketball gods pushed that ball out so that we could all enjoy Zion in college a little bit longer.
What are you most looking forward to for the rest of the tournament here?
To be honest, gambling. I love to gamble on the Sweet 16 games to get all those things happening at once. I'm excited to keep watching Gonzaga, to be honest. They are the deepest, most complete, and most enjoyable team to watch, in my opinion. They go 7 guys deep. They have this incredible Japanese basketball player named Rui Hachimura, who I don't think we've seen the best from yet. They also have a Canadian in Brandon Clark, who dropped 32 points the other night. They play this really fun pace. They go up and down. They're high talented. They're well coached. I think they can knock off Duke. I really do. And I would love to see a Final Four with Gonzaga and Duke where you have those two teams going head-to-head after Gonzaga beat them in regulation this year when Duke was healthy. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then this weekend in the short term, and things we're guaranteed to see, is we get a Canadian matchup. Like, we get Alexander for Virginia Tech and RJ Barrett for Duke. And they're 2 of their team's best players. They're 2 of the best, I would say, 4 players in that game. And we're not really used to that yet as a country. There's been incredible moments with some incredible Canadian players like Brandon Clark the other night and RJ Barrett with putback. But I can't remember a game where it was 2 Canadians that were both going to be lottery picks going head-to-head, being at the very top of very big programs. So I think that's going to be really fun for Canadian basketball fans who are excited to see this success that we've seen for individuals start to translate at the international level. And I think this is kind of one of those marker points that we're going to see.
So when we talked to you last week, you had Duke winning. You said your confidence is kind of wavering in them. I'm going to give you a chance to redo it. Who's your winner from this point on?
I actually did pick Gonzaga before the tournament when it all came down to it. I think I sent you an email that had Duke. And then when I went over it more, everyone in their bracket picked Duke. The gambler in me pushed away from it, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Gonzaga, and I'm gonna say Gonzaga faces Tennessee. Those are the 2 best teams I've seen so far. Tennessee almost choked it away. They built a massive lead in the round of 32, but I really like their front court. I like the amount of ball handlers they have, their speed, their tempo. They have a bunch of different guys who can score, and that's what does it for me in college basketball. Is if one of your guys gets into foul trouble, do you have a little bit of depth behind you? Can you rebound? Can you shoot? And do you have multiple guards who can get their own buckets? And Tennessee is kind of like that to me. So I'll say, as of the round of 16, heading into the Sweet 16, let me pick a Tennessee-Gonzaga final.
So thanks for being with us, JD. Hopefully we can catch up with you more for the Final Four next week. Brandon, you were talking about emotion that is one of the main themes of this tournament. Moving on to an ongoing story. Phil Kofer of the Florida State Seminoles, I think maybe most of you have heard, he lost his father after their first round win over Vermont. In the Sweet 16 game against Gonzaga, he will not be present. He flew home this week to visit family and be with family in California. This sort of thing is always tough, but I think the team will rally together. And you know what? I think they're going to play a really great game for Phil and for his family. But at the end of the day, as JD said, the Zags have been called the most complete team in the tournament. And they not only are the most complete team in the tournament, but they have arguably the most complete two-way player in the tournament, and that is Brandon the Shark Clark. This man hunts on the floor. Anyone who watched that Baylor game, he was dominant. He put up 36 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. And that's not just a one-and-done thing. He has been consistent all season. He's been dominant for the Zags, and I think that he will be the difference maker in this one. And you know, this may seem like a bit of a mismatch at first, and you know, it is on paper, but as I talked about last week, if the favorite always won, then there'd be no reason to play the games. And this game comes at you live on Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Moving on to the South, Mike, you were talking about a great 2-3 matchup in Michigan and Texas Tech. I have an even better one for you here, and that's the Purdue Boilermakers versus the Tennessee Volunteers. Okay. Tennessee has been consistent through these first couple games, and that consistency is actually in their inconsistency. In both games versus Colgate and Iowa, NBA prospect Admiral Schofield helped the Vols open up a large lead in the first half, only to lose that lead in the second half. This needs to be cleaned up, of course, in the Sweet 16. It cannot happen against the quality of teams that they'll be playing, whether it's conditioning or just plain complacency. It needs to be fixed, or they will not get past this very hot Purdue team. Purdue, of course, dominated the national champion Villanova Wildcats last game in the round of 32 with a win at 87-61. The Boilermakers were led by Carson Edwards, who put up a tournament high 42 points. You know, he needs to continue that dominance in this game, and I think the true matchup will be between Admiral Schofield and Carson Edwards. I think whichever player has the upper hand in this game will give their team the upper hand as well. So I am calling a Purdue win. That is my heart saying that, and it's for my bracket. My head's a little conflicted, however, and I believe it's going to be a really close game and definitely one to watch, and arguably the best one so far in the tournament. Arguably. Yeah, that game comes at you live on Thursday night at 7:30, just after the Gonzaga game starts. Moving on to LSU, Michigan State. LSU, of course, is my tournament winner, and I love this matchup. These are my top 2 teams in the entire Western Division. And that's right, Brandon, not Duke. I do not have Duke making the Final Four. And the reason for that is because of just the underdog factor. Duke is too hyped, and I believe these 2 teams are going to get it over on them. These 2 teams, however, moving back to this game, it's all about the matchups. Cassius Winston versus Tremont Waters, 2 dominant guards that will lead their teams to victory if they have their way. LSU had a bit of trouble against Maryland in round 2, and of course that did scare me. Naz Reid, he is a freshman, a big freshman, and a very important freshman for LSU. He had a lot of trouble with Maryland bigs, Bruno Fernando, as well as Jalen Smith. The Spartans need guys like Xavier Tillman and Kenny Goins to step up and do the same, or else they will also follow in Maryland's footsteps and they'll be eliminated from the tournament. So yeah, I'm calling an LSU win. I don't think that those guys are going to be able to contain Naz Reid, and I don't think Cassius Winston will be able to compete with Tremont Waters. You can catch that game on Friday. Let's see if I'm right. I think I am. But we're going to move on to another bracket that I've been hearing a lot about. It's on Twitter. It's called the Skedline Name Game. This game allows anybody to participate, even if you don't know anything about college basketball. We're moving on to our Elite 8. That's the best names in the tournament across all 64 teams. Those polls will be posted to the Skedline Twitter page just following this broadcast. And go to vote. You have until Saturday to vote, in which we will be releasing the Final Four, and we will cover the winner in our edition of the Final Four coverage next week. From all of us here at Skedline, thank you for watching. I'm Aaron Ranson, your host. This is Mike Ranger and Brandon Tretter. Thank you very much. Enjoy the madness.